All right, welcome back to Dwayne's Roses. I hope you enjoy this tour of our garden as some of the roses are now in bloom. All right, before I get started lost in pollination land, I thought I'd show you a short, quick tour around the garden with some of the roses. John Davis from Canada is just starting to climb up and starting to bloom. Unfortunately, we lost a huge climber this winter because it was a harder winter, so I replaced it with a seedling that will hopefully climb tall enough here. Sorry about the traffic noise, it's summer, so this road is open. Around here we have a few English roses. We have the Wedgwood rose here planted, and behind it here, if I can get in close, is the Generous Gardener just starting to get established. The Wedgwood rose is already fairly established and growing beautifully here. And you can see arching the other direction out to the walkway. Behind it, that's Morden's Blush from Canada. Excuse the walkway, the weeds out there. We haven't actually gotten that walkway done. It'll get mulched done this summer here sometime. Munstead Wood over on this side here is blooming beautifully. Glad it survived the winter. It died all the way to the ground, but managed surprisingly to come back fairly well. Needs extra space here, so this is going to get thinned out here, probably a plant or two pulled out of it, and this lady's mantle that's sprawling everywhere is going to get divided. As I found out, when you feed a lady's mantle as much as you feed your roses, they become really big, so interesting. On this side we've got, spilling out over the edge here, are perennials, and behind it we've got Claire Austin and Princess Alexandra of Kent, looking beautiful here. These both died almost to the ground this winter, but have recovered fairly well. Especially Claire Austin seems like it's doing well enough, but I've been especially impressed with the recovery here of Princess Alexandra of Kent, at least with the number of branches and the blooms that have come up. So really enjoying this one. Behind it, this is a baby seedling that is in testing. Interestingly, this was apricot turning to pink. I did a video on that earlier this year, and out in the sunlight it has now turned a very interesting red, so be interesting to keep an eye on that this one year. Behind it's a purple seedling that looks very much old rose when it's in bloom. Above and beyond here behind it, clematis still in bloom here. So area here is filling out beautifully. Did another video on this, so I won't spend time on it. We've got a whole row of seedlings in testing here that are all beautiful and fragrant. I love these ones so far. This is one that just started blooming this year, but it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. A bunch of blooms, as you can see, have already faded off of it, but this one is still there. There's a couple hidden down in the foliage, and then new branches coming up to replace those blooms. Mainly we'll just wait and see how quickly it reblooms, and it did maintain some of its fragrance. Made it through tip hardy in this much colder winter, so I'm very pleased with that aspect. And behind this row of seedlings testing in the middle here to be tall is James Galway, a beautiful English rose here. Not sure if I can grow it as a large shrub here, probably not a climber, but I'll test and find out. A couple of seedlings back in here that are just being tested as for parents. And this large one here, this really tall one here, is actually already finishing up its bloom. I can show you there's couple of buds down in here still. One there and one. I can kind of show you the form of the bloom here back in here. But this was already loaded in bloom. You can see all the spent blooms down in there probably. But this one here is a large, full spreading shrub. Managed to do well through this really hard winter and bloomed really well. So I'm excited about the prospects of this one. There's actually, as you can see here, new branches with buds forming already in spite of its size. All the way around the bush, you can find new branches with new buds, so it should burst back into bloom here in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about that one, and so far it has worked as a seed parent. In this border to the left of it, I'm really happy to see Olivia Rose Austin has made a recovery. Yes, I know I need to deadhead, sorry about that. Haven't had time with all the pollination going on. but Olivia Rose Austin just looking exquisite as ever. Definitely love this rose, and I'm glad to see that from dying to the ground she was able to come back and is beginning to fill in. By the end of the season she should be looking good. To the left of her is Gertrude Jekyll. Gertrude Jekyll, aside from obviously her powerful fragrance she is renowned for, is kind of a mystery in that she's exceedingly cold hardy as far as crown hardy. She dies to the crown but comes back every year, from what I've been told by rose breeders in Canada. What's amazing is that she is not cane hardy. Her canes die back very easily, so very interesting. And we'll see. I'm testing her pollen more now because as a seed parent she wasn't very helpful, at least to this point. Alright, moving up along this aisle here, these are all hybrid rugosa seedlings that were from Teresa Bunet in Hansa. You can see the spent bloom starting to form hips. These are all to be tested. This array is a whole bunch of 3 different test beds that Holly was kind enough to plant all the babies in for me since I was running behind on time. Definitely looking forward to this season to see how those progress. This side, another row of seedlings from the last 2 years that are still in testing. I'll just zoom over here quick and show you this one here. Excited about this one, in that it is a very powerful citrus fragrance. Very strong citrus fragrance mixed with old rose. So we'll see. I need to test and see. There's a whole bunch. It's just starting to bloom. You can see here there's all different branches with buds on it getting ready to bloom. So looking forward to this one. Here's the form of it once it's opened up a little bit more. Looking forward to seeing how this one repeats. One thing I just noticed just now starting, it's a little bit of spot on the leaves. So that's the other thing I'll be keeping track of this year, is how does that look by the end of the season and how is the repeat bloom on this one. Let me just jump over. I won't show you everything due to time, but I'll start here. This row here has just a lot that we can appreciate out the window of the house looking into the garden, but a good portion of them are also seed parents that I am using. So Olivia Rose Austin here is a seed parent that I am still using, and right now I have a bunch of seedlings from cold hardy pollen on her. Looking forward to testing. This is Lady Emma Hamilton, which at least I can just enjoy the fragrance. Behind her is Aloha Hawaii. A bunch of seedlings still from her. We'll wait and see what all she passes on. Fragrance seems to pass on in fully double and a variety of colors so far, so we'll see how that goes. LD Braithwaite so far hasn't proved very useful. This is a seedling here that's in testing as a parent. You can see it starts more of an apricot yellow and gets lighter, but it's a very spreading bush with tons of bloom on it. You can see all the buds getting ready to open here, but held on to its fragrance and was cold hardy, so I'm excited about that. Queen Elizabeth right behind that. You can see blooming. Testing as a seed parent. She's supposed to develop seed and be a pretty good seed parent. So far, no luck from me. Maybe it's the crosses I'm doing. Waiting to see, this is Moonlight in Paris, which I do love this rose. Waiting to see how it recovers from this winter. It died down. You can see it's already had several blooms here spent that I pollinated. It did work as a seed parent. Seedlings in testing, so still don't know enough of how it will do, but we'll see as that goes. Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Tess is a lot like LD Braithwaite. It can have okay blooms to very nice, all the way to almost stunning, but they seem to vary quite a bit per bloom. So for instance, here's one. It's a very beautiful bloom, but it blooms really well and has been surprisingly cold hardy. It has blooms down and towards the ground there, and then there's all these taller branches getting ready to replace those blooms. This has proven to be a pretty good seed parent so far. Have to test longer to see how it develops. This is a seedling in testing right now that I am very pleased to see that it did really well this winter. Fragrance is wonderful. It's tea rose switching over to a myrrh fragrance. There's a bloom that's just starting to open. Maybe you can get a look at what the form is like. And here's another one here. It's a very pale gold. fading to a very light yellow as it opens. There's a little bit of pink on the outer petals as it starts to open. But wonderful fragrance, and it's spreading. I'm just glad to see the vigor is still there after winter, so it may give me a yellow to work with. We'll see, that's in testing. Behind it is 1173. This is a shrub from a fellow rose breeder who gave me to use, and so far has proven to be a very willing seed parent, so I'm excited about that one. So anyway, that's about, let's see, a little over half the garden. So I'll do another tour another time for the other.